Hello, I'm a little bit early, a couple minutes I think. Just want to make sure everything's working. Tech support is back, but he has not yet gotten all my cameras back where they're supposed to be and all my stuff arranged. So, we're working on that. I'm just going to wait till a viewer shows up and then we'll get going. I want to thank Andrea for showing up yesterday and being so much help. It was so much fun to roll and play in the garden with her and to see her working with the garden. And she works with the garden a little differently than I do. Everybody who gets a garden, it's the same way as reading cards. Every person who gets a garden gets it a little bit differently. I had a couple of people who wrote me late yesterday trying to get the coupon on the $10 off coupon on the garden, and my administrator sent you new coupons today because the other ones were time sensitive and they went away yesterday on the 31st instead of on the 1st like we wanted them to. So now she's got them extended out. So if you're holding on to one, you can probably go in and use it if you haven't used it yet and you think you really want to have the garden. Well, hi everybody. Everybody's showing up on their Sunday day. We're having a hot sunny day here, but it's supposed to rain here tomorrow, but not like it's raining in other places. It's just a big old late summer thundercloud thunderburst. If any of y'all have a question real fast, I can roll some stones for you in the garden before the other folks show up, or we can just kind of wait till it hits 1, which is 2 minutes from now. I'm going to be on for all of... yeah, I like having somebody else with me, guys. It makes it, real life. I mean, y'all are with me and I'm reading what you're saying, but it's not exactly the same. Because you got to remember, I cut my teeth and grew up doing live table readings. I'm amazed at the number of readers that are on YouTube that have never really done live table readings or worked a psychic fair or done any of that stuff. And it just means you learn to read differently. And that's why I was very hesitant about starting to read through Zoom and stuff, because I was like, is that going to really work? But it does. It's amazing that it does. And let's see where we are. 1 more minute. I'm going to be on for 45 minutes and then I have to cut out because I'm going to be going over to Heart and Soul Connected with Allie. We're plotting psychic squares. The bunch of us that are going to be part of her little psychic squares program are going to meet this afternoon to see if we can get everything kind of up and running to get that going. And anyway, I think I'm going to just start every day before I usually see y'all. I roll what's the atmosphere today going to be like. So, oops, up in the air, but in the mind we've got this. The mind is going to be at the forefront here because it's between earth, path forward, throat, third eye, present, and air. I mean, it got 6 of them. So, being in air, its thoughts are all important. Being in earth, it says that final thoughts are coming. So, we're going to get a lot of things. The path forward is the mind is opening up. Watch for signs. Third eye is good for the mind. It's third eye is, we're going to have a lot of intuition and insight. From the throat. We're going to have heart opens up with the expression from the throat, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of things that have to do with the present. Signs and clues are present now. So what we're seeing in this little corner is there's a lot of omens and oppositions, and I'm bringing in an interesting stone. I'm also going to talk a little bit more about 8-8. Someone wrote in the chat yesterday that 8-8 was not the new moon, but it is exactly the new moon. The new moon is exactly on 8-8, and I talked about 8-8, the Lion's Gate. We also have values right between third eye and throat. So this is going to be a real chance for us to seek abundance and to talk about self-esteem, and that's part of what's going to happen when we talk about the position of air. We have fun things coming in the future out of today's readings. because we have clarification in the future. Ideas are planted and they will flourish at this time. And we have spirit, which says be patient. Transmutation is taking place right now. And the last stone to be read on this grouping is the body. And it says ground your thoughts. So what we heard is a lot of thought all up in here. Thoughts bringing clarity forward into the future. Spirit moving into the future. Our insights are being split between the third eye and the throat, which means we're going to find it easier to speak the truth and to hear things more clearly. And then we had the mind. This is saying a lot, be open to lots of signs and omens. And so with that, I'm going to talk a little bit more, I think, before we get really going, on the stone I picked for today. It's really kind of an interesting stone. It's not one I'm terribly familiar with, but it ties directly to one of the questions I got on my community page. And I'm really going to thank you guys for asking questions up front, because it gives me time to kind of get my act together. But this is called Cuprite, just like it looks like, Cuprite, and it is the feminine form of hematite. It's red. I know it looks purple in this, and it can be purplish red, but it's red, and it supports exploring your shadow self and healing the deeper wounds and issues. Provides access to ancient knowledge of the feminine. It supports and holds you as you enter into any kind of a place where you're feeling like, I've never been here before, it's new, and that's the only place we can go to grow. We got to go to things that are new. So it supports us into that, and it supports you to feel like you belong here on earth. And this particular crystal has to do with the sacral chakra, which is our creativity, and the root chakra, which is where we grow from. And that brings me to a question I got on the community page. And one of the questions is, do crystals always relate to chakra colors? In other words, root chakra's red, sacral's orange, solar plexus is yellow, heart's green, and heart can also be a little bit pink. Then the throat is blue, then the third eye's indigo, and the top crown chakra is violet, or some people see it as white. And to some extent, a lot of stones do go along with the root chakras, go along with the chakra colors. Not always. You have to look at what the stone does. Like the dark stones like tourmaline and obsidian that I was talking about that ground you in their protector stones, those also have a lot to do with the root chakra, and they're not red. But when I lay grids out, grids will have certain colors in them, and those colors generally in sacred geometry match together numerically the way they are. They mean a certain energy. And so I have to look at it that way. But some, like clear quartz, can be any chakra you want. And actually, I think any stone, if you program it, give it a message, hold it in your hand, and say, I need help with this, it can be programmed into doing that for you. Good morning to everybody. I'm not afraid to Zoom, dear heart. I'm really. I used to read cards on the telephone. I found that much more difficult because I was trying to explain the cards to people. But I'm good. I mean, this is all working out fine. I'm happy with it. And Sammy J. Lady. Okay, let's see if I can find what you're referring to up here. I don't. Oh, don't be. Zoom is really easy. I thought you were saying thank you to me for going on Zoom. When I was first on Zoom, it was like a little awkward and a little weird, but it's on everybody's phone, and you can kind of grab it from anywhere. And I've had people who don't they don't feel confident with it. I had a woman the other day that I read her, and we did it on the phone, and I just sent her email, pictures of what the readings were so she could refer to them. Oh, deja vu. I got a really interesting question about deja vu. It was from a woman who said she had some really profound deja vu incidents in her life. And I presume everybody knows what deja vu means, but it's spelled DEJA space VUW. And I believe it's French, and it means to see again. And what happens when you have deja vu, if you ever walked in a room and you knew you'd been in that room before, or you walked into a situation and you knew what the conversation was going to be, that's deja vu. Some people have a lot of deja vu because they're very intuitive and that's how their spidey sense kind of works. But there are other people who just occasionally have it. When they have it, it's very profound. And in the case of this woman, she said, I went into it. She'd had a little trouble. She was looking around for jobs. Had trouble setting on one. Got finally to one. And the day she walked in the office, she knew all the people that were there in there. She knew how they were going to be dressed. She knew how they were going to behave. And she said she just felt immediately at home there. And she stayed in that job 23 years. There's also a thing that happens, and astrologers talk about it, and a lot of other people do too, where you have a soul pod, and those are souls you've been connected to before. Some of the souls I'm most tightly connected to are not from my genetic family, but they're from my soul family. And they're people who we have been around over and over again. And I had a friend, the one I told you about the other day, whose life just, when she got in the flow, everything's just moving the way she wants it to. She had a hypnotic regression into a past life. And she was talking about someone that was in the past life with her. And the therapist said, "You know this person?" And she said, "It's Nancy." And yes, deja vu is French. It ends up we've had several, probably more than several lives together, and supported each other and been there for each other. So we're part of each other's soul pod. And when I met her, I ended up hiring her for a job that she went into, and we just stayed in contact because I'd created the job, even though I didn't work there anymore. I was a for-hire person to come straighten out an office. And we just became friends. Now, I've worked with a lot of other people much more intensely than her, but she and I have stayed in each other's lives for 43 years. So she's part of my soul pod. So some deja vu is deja vu because that's how your intuition works. Other deja vu is because you've known these people before and you're recognizing that person from before. One lady wrote and said she was enjoying meditating, and then she felt like she was expanding and expanding, sort of like the Stay Puft guy in the first Ghostbusters movie. And she got to be huge, and she was like, it kind of got scary for her. Well, I do know that when you meditate, you can meditate out into your auric field, which is your energy field that's out beyond your body. It's that field you can kind of feel when people get too close to you and they push it in on they're in your space. Well, that space is your auric field. There are also meditations that start with you inside, have you go into kind of your auric field, go in the room you're in, go into the house you're in, go into the city you're in, and they end up expanding your consciousness so you're looking at the whole world. I'd suggest you go through some more guided meditations like that, because you're not losing it and you're not going to separate and you're not going to die. It just means you have a very wide consciousness and it can absorb a lot. So I would suggest that you look into maybe meditating that way, because she seemed to feel like she was missing meditation. The other thing is, has anyone ever seen Carillion photography? And Carillion photography is a way that they take a picture of you, but it's not you. It's all the energy waves. It's like if you've ever had an aura picture done, and this is my aura, and it was done by Medium Kim. If you have a reading by her, she'll make you one of these. And this is what my aura looked like to Medium Kim. I've had Carillion photography, and I've seen the waves out for me, and she's right. Mine are very multicolored. Carillion photography is a really interesting thing. I don't know anyone around me that's doing it now. I don't know anyone who talks about doing it on YouTube, but that's a way you can kind of see your energy field and maybe get a feeling for what's going on around you. Okay. And I'm looking to make sure nobody's coming up with questions. Another question that came in was because when we were talking about shifting and awakening and coming to terms with that, can that be ringing in your ears? And my ears started ringing the last time I was in surgery when they took the melanoma off my leg. And that was a time when the synchronicities had pushed me to saving my life by making me look at the fact that I had this melanoma on my leg. And they got it before it became systemic, and I'm 5 years away from it, and I'm perfectly fine. I'm going to look at the schools being closed. I'm concerned about that too because my grandchildren would have to go back to school. Ringing in your ears. Some people say it's angel voices. The ringing in my ears when they finally did the brain scan and everything else, because it started right after the surgery. It's actually, they found I had an old stroke from one of my pregnancies on my auric nerve, and for some reason the anesthesia just triggered it off to make sound. That also happened to happen at the time that I was really coming into this final awakening up. So I don't know how much of it is an artifact of surgery, how much of it is voices in my head. Mine comes and goes. I know people they get that, they get vertigo. There's a lot of other things people get. And, the first thing you need to do is go to your doctor and make sure there's not a physical reason, because some of these can be signs of a serious physical problem you need to deal with. But if that's not what it is, then it can be awakening, and it can mean the more you suggest the days that I'm calmer and more into where I'm moving to, it kind of fades away. But it's a pain in the ass at night. So I have speakers in my pillow, little flat speakers, and I play music and stuff to drown it out at night. So ringing in your ears is kind of a double-edged sword, but yes, it can be voices in your head talking to you and directing you. Now, we have a real question that came off the community page, and then I'm going to look at our school's going to be closed again. I don't know where you live. I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. Let's see. Someone wants to know if her van. I'm looking at the situation about this lady's van, who says she doesn't go on trips of less than 35 miles at a time. And I'm going to see about the situation around your van. What's going on around this lady's van? Your spirit's telling you need to really have this thing looked at. Clarification for you in the future is going to come. And I'll tell you why I think you need to have the van checked, because the spirit went right into the root chakra. And when spirit shows up, it says you need to use your intuition in this situation. So if your intuition is telling you badly enough that you're writing to me on my website, is my van got a problem? I think you need to take a really close look at what's going on with your van. But in the future, ideas planted at this time will flourish. So I think if you start plotting towards how you can replace it, I don't think it needs to be replaced immediately. It's kind of hanging on here in the middle. It's staying grounded. It's working for the time being. And you're concerned because of the money and the value of getting it replaced. But if you've had vans or cars starting to kind of go through this problem before, and you sort of went, oh my God, I think it's going to start to break, you need to start looking around to figure out what the alternative's going to be if it does. Because you have spirits transforming your thinking, and you need to let go of the limitations. Right now you're sitting here saying, oh my God, if it breaks, what am I going to do? You need to proactively think, what will I do if it breaks? Now, it may not break. You may be able to find ways to keep it fixed and going together. But you definitely have reasons to be concerned about your van. And energetically you do. It's going to hold together because you kind of hold it together. But I think you need to start looking for alternative too. Okay. School's being closed. Oh, Texas is even better because my grandkids are in Texas. Okay. What's the situation about Texas schools? And What's the situation around Texas schools? Okay. Interesting. They need to do a lot of rethinking about how they're going to open them. This whole idea that we have a governor who says kids can't be required to wear masks is nuts. But that's just the state I live in. In this card over this crystal over here is sitting in fire, and it says, "Do not be tied to the false energy of the past," and it kind of goes in a little bit, pinches a little bit into earth. And it says, they're not finished with exactly what the mandates are going to be around schools being open. Spirit wants to come forward and wants the schools to be able to be opened. It's transforming how this is going to happen. It's not finished yet, but water, which is kind of moving to the ultimate conclusion, is saying grounding changes will be made in long-term patterns. And you've got the body and the future, which is kind of an interesting place for it to end up. And physically, things are going to change in the near future. I'm going to see what the tree of life comes out to be, and then I'm going to kind of tell you what I think might be going on here. Tree of life, clarity. Okay. The path is going to be blessed with clarity and wisdom. I think the situation around whether schools are safe or not is going to come out and be so blatant that they can't force a school to open without any kind of mask mandate or restrictions. The way this balances out is the decision, they think they've made a decision, but they're going to have to rethink it because it's not going to hold up. So, okay. Oh, good. Your son-in-law got vaccinated. Thank you, Jackie. I think a lot of people are really rethinking that idea. Yeah, and Alicia, if you go back, yesterday's show is actually already recorded. You can go down and just hit it and it'll play because it streams it live and then it sets it up as a as a recorded show. And easy. And Andrea and I had a great time. And it was really kind of strange because she read from her garden too. And there's a couple times when her garden, she rolled the same stone into the same space. And there's 20 spaces on this. And we are separated by more than a few states and at least one international border. And we still managed to get the same things. And so for today, I am going to finish. As you know, we're doing a spot a day. We've got about 9 more days of these daily meetings, guys. I started air, and that dream got interrupted, and I actually talked to Andrea, and she used it on one of her questions on her shows. I went out on a portico of an old estate. It was shady and cool, obviously entering into a space to move forward into a formal garden, like a formal British garden. Like if you know who Capability Brown was, he designed a lot of these gardens around these huge estates in the 1800s. The garden is well kept beyond the patio. The breezes are messages on your skin. You can feel a breeze that's gentle, subtly drawing you forward. You can feel that if it was a harsh wind, it would be a little bit biting, maybe even cold. But you know that you're not going to stay in that portico. You're going to move out into this garden. So, in other words, there's a point when you're considering what a stone is, where you have a point where you see where it is, and then you consider how you're moving it out into the garden. And that garden is air. And the reason I didn't go forward with that day's vision was I looked down the portico and I saw Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney talking. So, being who I am, I went trotting down there to see what's going on. And Mitt Romney looked me right in the eye and he said, "You paid no mind to me when I was running for office. You fast forwarded through every speech I ever made. You can't hear this conversation." So I got booted. So I asked Andrea if she could look in her cards and see if Mitch and Liz are speaking. And she said, yes, they are. Oh, good. Yeah, Marge, I saw your order go through. You'll be getting it. You should get it in the next couple days. So we're going to go on to Air part 2. The pressure of the air tells you where to focus. It tells you it can inspire. Air means to inspire. Actually, the first thing we do when we're born is we breathe in air, and there are some people that say in that first breath is when our soul enters our body. And the word inspire means to breathe in. Inspiration. I'll read about your dietary shifts. I need to be doing better with mine right now too. But if you breathe in, that's where the word inspiration comes from. It's to fill yourself up with air, and that's what happens when you're in the air part of the garden. The area of my visit is vast, but it has a feeling of very orderliness. And that's why I'm saying if you ever look at like Downton Abbey had formal gardens they walked around. Those were capability brown sort of gardens. And they're places that have a lot of planning and a lot of different aspects to looking at them that you can walk through. There's vibrations all over this area. They move you forward. It's like that theory that I told you about in quantum mechanics. First it's a wave and then it's a particle. The air is carrying your thoughts out to make them become whole, make them become a particle, like the visions you'll see in the garden. Area starts in the shelter patio, moving into the space. And when I walked in the space and said, okay, tell me about throwing things in the space, I got the message. Are you walking in it? Are you distracted? Are your thoughts distracted? Are your thoughts organized? Are you looking for a specific outcome? Are you surprised by what you see in front of you because you have a whole new way to look at it? That's what air is when I see a stone fall in air. I have to think about, what does that stone mean? What are the other stones that are out there? And do I need to think about some of the aspects that are in the garden in a different way? And I remember one time when I went through my first divorce, it was a really hard time. It was, it's the first really huge failure of my life. And I just pulled into myself. And I remember this had been going on for about 6 months. And one day I walked out of the building where I was working, and the wind hit my skin and I could feel it. And I thought, there's a breeze. Well, I mean, everybody in Texas, it's windy a lot. So people kind of looked at me like I was nuts. But I began to realize that when I couldn't feel the air, when I couldn't allow myself to feel that environment, that touch, that motivation, that expression of what's going on in the world, I was cutting myself off. So air is also how we expand out into things. But speaking of expanding, Andrea wants to know about changing her dietary regimen. Okay, what's the situation about Andrea and the situation around her diet? I'm going to let you go there. Okay, it fell out. Okay. Well, you're ready to change. You've got the your mental powers are in the right place for you to start a diet. And you can create power through connecting your mental forces. You need to get your head and your body and your mind on the same page, lady, in order to get to make this dietary shift. I see your spirit's already there. It's moving forward. You just need to get much clearer about this says physical changes are coming, this stone, and you need to get much clearer. You have many paths ahead, and your problem is you just can't decide on a path. And also, some of the weight you carry from emotional pain or from memories that don't really function for you well. There's a couple things you need to do. You need to deal with your past, and I've talked about that in the past, about how I did a lot of meditations and cleared my heart so that I could move forward and go through and stick to the diet I had. Stress will do it, and I know that trying to get the game going, trying to deal with the other things I've got going, trying to set up a YouTube channel, I got to 199, and that's where more or less sad. I go 5 pounds up, sometimes 5 pounds down, but I've never seen the scale below 199 because pressure and stress will create this stuff called cortisol, and it's how we gain weight. And all I can tell you is that I started reading a book yesterday by a Buddhist monk called How to Relax, and I'm hoping I can and I just saw something over there. I know that you have to heal your own heart. You have to feel confident in it. It has to be what you do for you. And trust me, once you start losing the weight and once you start feeling better, I have no idea how much weight you need to lose or why you need to lose it or anything else. But once you get into that mode, I lost the most weight in the months where I never got on a scale. I just knew this is what I was supposed to eat. This is when I was supposed to eat it. I do keto with intermittent fasting, which means I have a window, an 8-hour window I eat in during the day, and then outside that window I just don't eat. Okay, now. Oh, somebody has on her homepage has the picture of the beach that someone in Hawaii lives by. How cool. And what's toner? Oh, okay. What stone or area shows you're in the correct path in the garden? This is the clarification stone, and this is the one that sort of clarifies where you are in the garden, but different parts of the garden will tell you different layers of directionality. Sometimes it'll say, like somebody I rolled today said, you have different paths you can take. I think it may have been with weight loss before. You can have different paths you can take. And as far as directionality, I've been using the scarf with north facing towards me because that's what Vivian told me worked best for her. Next, I'm trying all week doing that. Next week, I'm just going to start however I pull it out of my bag and spread it on the table, whether it's north facing towards me or west or east or south. That's where it's going to lay, and I'm going to see how the readings go. My experience in playing with it since May was directionality wasn't an issue, but in my instructions that you get when you get the garden, it says you be you. If you get an impression or you get a feeling this is how it's supposed to work, go for it. And you'll see that. And as far as working with water, I love water, and there's not a natural lake in the state of Texas. You can find water, but you have to go to the coast, to the ocean, or you have to go to other states around us to see it. I really do I find water very soothing, but here the best you can do is find a good green space after a rain when some of the arroyos are full of water. And what stone shows you're on the right path? You kind of have to read, Patricia, you kind of have to read all 5 stones and see which ones are. A lot of what I'm finding out about the garden is it's incredibly reflective. One of the quotes that is at the base of the garden is, what you sow in the garden of contemplation, you will reap in the harvest of reality. And so what you sow and what you contemplate on and say, okay, is this really the way I want to see things? Is there something, if you get a stone like values in the grounding stone in the past, and it says, look at your past, something in your past is blocking whatever the situation is around that you're trying to do. That may be a place to start. Sometimes it'll say, go for it, which means whatever intuition's telling you to do, go for it would be the one thing that I would say is really just whatever your intuition's telling you to do, to run for it, that's a good thing. Yeah, Andrea, if that's happened to me, and I'm having to rethink with with how I ate, because when you first start out on keto, first of all, there's a lot of fat in the land to live on, so it's easier that way. I'm having to rethink some of my things, but I just look at a variety of sources, and I can tell all I can tell you is that my instincts guide me to what is the correct thing to do. Yeah, that's what Vivian's guides told her, to make north north, and she was like, I don't know where north is. And then her guide said that there's a compass on your telephone, which she didn't know was. She found the compass on her telephone and figured out which way was north in her apartment for laying out the scarf. Um, I don't know if it's OCD or what. I'm just going to see what works best. Thank you. You guys are drawing so many cute pictures. Uh, does anybody else have a specific question? Because like I said, we've got about 9 minutes left, and then I have to jump off to another meeting. But I will be back tomorrow at 1. I promise. I've got a reading in the morning, but that's kind of it. So that's my Monday. And it's going to be rainy here, so I'm not going anywhere. I wouldn't be going anywhere anyway. I'm going to have to go to the rock shop soon, but I have a grid I'm not sure I have all the right stones for, so I'm going to have to figure that out. And, okay, I think I'm going to pull card. Card. Where'd my cards go? I'm going to pull a moon card. I'm going to pull a card from Moonology. Patricia, that's really a question you have to ask yourself. Quartz is always really good for upping someone's vibration. And it's easy to obtain, and it's usually going to be quartz. If you had a particular vibration that you wanted to work with, I'm gonna go through it quickly. There are chakra stones, like if you wanted to work with your sacral chakra, which is the one just above the root for creativity. It's crystals that go in sacral are carnelian, sunstone, goldstone, moonstone, and agates of all kinds. And solar plexus, which is the power chakra, is citrine, yellow, jasper, tiger's eye, pyrite, or sulfur. I know malachite does the throat and the heart. It's really good for energizing and getting those to be stronger. So it would depend if amethyst is third eye and crown chakra, quartz is crown chakra. Red agate, that big giant red ball that's sitting behind me, that's one piece of red agate, and that's great for root chakra, but it's not exclusively. If you have a chakra or an area of your body you're thinking isn't getting the energy the way you want, one of the sources I use to research that is a company called Crystal Vaults, and it's just like what it sounds like, crystals like crystals, and vault like bank vault. And they're on the internet, and they're really good. There's also Crystal Collector. There's also a lot of shows on YouTube about people that go out and hunt for crystals, and sometimes seeing where they come from can help you. So I'm going to pull a moon card, because I want y'all to remember 8/8 is coming up. A week from today, it will be 8/8. It's going to be very powerful. And I'm also beginning to investigate. There's some major conjunctions that are coming in 2022. And I know that sounds like a long way off, but we can start planning our energy to be in line to be able to move. Oh, the books that okay, this is actually a book that comes from a deck. It comes with a deck of these cards, and it's crystal reading cards, and they're Healing Oracle, and you can get them on Amazon. And the author's name is Rachel, Rachelle Charman, Charman, and she's English. And it took me forever to find that book after the first time I saw it. Okay. Our card for the day is New Moon in Libra. And that's a romantic cycle begins when the new moon hits into Libra because it's balance. And I think some of that romantic cycle can be just us romancing with our own lives, coming into balance with our own lives and with our own self. I've never had a crystal heal itself. I have one that's just fracturing its little self into pieces internally because that's the sort of quartz that it is. I did see your question yesterday. I know that sometimes there are people who break stones. I had one woman when I was first on who used to write me all the time that she didn't do anything to them and they just sat on the shelves and broke. But if it went back together, more power to you, girl. I don't know. Rose quartz is a beautiful stone, though. I actually saw a visual yesterday on Facebook. It's a rose quartz bathtub. Really cool. Yep, we've got some interesting, and there's another kind of, not to sway you away from my channel, but if you've never seen Astrology Alert, he's a little guy, he's from Spain, and he puts the charts up, but he sometimes can put up very confusing charts, but right now he's going through all the major outer planets, that's like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all those guys, in relation to the U.S.'s chart from when the country was formed. And it'll give you some encouragement and some understanding, because there are some astrologers who come up with some very scary scenarios for our country. I don't like to feed fear, and I like his attitude about it. I like the way he handles it. I think he's a good person to listen to. Okay, guys, that's it. I'm at 45 minutes, and I need to end my stream. I want to thank each and every one of you that's come here. My parents lived in Hawaii for 7 years, and I worked at the airline at the time, so I could fly over and visit them. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous place, but it's tiny. I felt like I was away from everything when I was there. I'm not an island person. Yeah, Andrea is great. If you've seen that rose quartz bathtub, it's gorgeous. I want to thank all of you for being here. Thanks so much for your support. Remember to like my videos, because then they are more likely to keep playing them over and over again. Oh. Yeah, I went into a New Age store in the 70s that practiced black magic. It's very strange.